Welcome, CTO Demon channel friends. Welcome back. This is another core curriculum talk, and we are continuing our series on the safety of CTO PCI. You can see I've changed my position in my office. I sit on that side if I'm doing retrograde talks. I sit on this side if I'm doing antegrade talks, and this is the safety position in my office. So today we're going to address the third of the 12 steps in the global safety consensus document on CTO PCI. The topic of today is hydraulic dissection, extraplaque hematoma. Now, this is not one particular maneuver or something. This is a combination of something, and it can happen in various places in the CTO vessel. But it's a combination of hydraulic dissection and extraplaque hematoma. Now, for this thing to occur, there are three requirements. First, there needs to be a connection between the true lumen and the extraplaque space. Secondly, there needs to be some sort of pressure so that the hematoma travels from the true lumen into the extraplaque space, expanding the extraplaque space into an extraplaque hematoma. And thirdly, this extraplaque hematoma must cause some kind of complication before you have the hydraulic dissection extraplaque hematoma complication. Now, the connection between the true lumen and the extraplaque space. Now, last time we already talked about guide dissection, and that's a common reason for connection between the true lumen and the extraplaque space. Your guiding catheter is too aggressive and it's jammed against the wall and it's dissected the wall and caused dissection into the extraplaque space. If you do injection or the systolic blood pressure pressurizes that, you get a hematoma in the ostium of the vessel. Another way to make a connection is wires. So if a wire goes from the true lumen into the subintimal space, that is the connection between the true lumen and the extraplaque space. Now, usually, if we just wire into the subintimal space and we pull it back and rewind the true lumen, that's not a problem because that's only a very small hole, a 0.014 hole between the true lumen and extraplaque space. And even if we pressurize it, usually that's not going to cause a hematoma expansion. However, if we wire down in the subintimal and we manipulate the wire a lot and it moves around and it makes the space bigger, or we have a knuckle on the wire and it goes into the subintimal space, that is going to make a bigger hole between the true lumen and the extraplaque space. And if we pressurize that true lumen, the hematoma is going to expand. So wiring is a second way of creating a connection between the true lumen and the extraplaque space. The third, of course, is balloon can do this. So when we're doing reverse cut, we use a big balloon that cracks the proximal plaque, and that can produce cracks that go into subnormal space. So often when people do reverse cut, they remove the antegrade syringe so that we don't do any more injections, so that we don't pressurize the antegrade true lumen, causing extraplaque hematoma. Bam, when we do balloon-assisted microdissection to break the proximal cap, we rupture the balloon, and when we rupture the balloon, the contrast shoots out, and that can shoot into the subnormal space, causing a connection. Similarly, accidental balloon rupture inside the CTO body can cause a connection between the true lumen and extraplaque space. Only 2 days ago, I was doing a distal RCA CTO. It was bad on me bad. I wired into the subintimal twice, but I managed to redirect into the true lumen. But when we were trying to dilate the vessel, it was quite difficult to get across the CTO body. And we're using a 0.85 balloon. We had quite a junior trainee with us. And when the balloon ruptured, he didn't realize it ruptured. He kept going with the contrast. And very soon you see this 4-0 shadow in this distal RCA of contrast staining. So obviously what happened is that the balloon ruptured. And because there were already wire connections between that part and the subintimal space, the contrast shot into the subintimal space. And as he kept pumping contrast in, it created a huge hematoma. And on IVUS, we saw that the vessel has collapsed to about 2.0. The adventitia and the hematoma is about 4.5. So we create a big hematoma. So that can happen. Now, apart from this connection between the true lumen and the extraplaque space, we require pressure, either systolic blood pressure or more often injection pressure from contrast. That pressurizes the true lumen and causes this connection to pressurize and expand the extraplaque space and cause a hematoma. But to complete the complication, the hematoma needs to cause a problem. And it can cause a problem in three ways. In the ostium position, very often what happens is hematoma extends into the aorta, causing an aortic cuff hematoma, or worse still, type A dissection, or worse still, it can go downwards into the pericardium and cause tamponade. Secondly, if you have the CTO body, you can have a hematoma that surrounds the CTO body, and when you stent, the stent becomes smaller, and you can squeeze the hematoma downwards. Finally, the hematoma can go distal and cause distal vessel collapse, so after you stent, you can have no runoff from your CTO body. So that's terrible. Now, let's deal with each of these in turn. So the three things that required is one, a connection between the true lumen and extraplaque space, two, injection of systolic pressure causing hematoma expansion in the extraplaque space, and number three, the hematoma in the extraplaque space causing a problem. Let's deal with the first problem, which is the aortic cusp and tamponade. So this is an urgent problem. This is a time-sensitive problem. You want to be able to stent and cover the entrance of the dissection as soon as possible. And often the culprit for this is the guide dissection. The guide has dissected the ostium of the vessel, and you've pressurized the ostium, and now there's a hematoma in the ostium of the vessel tracking up the aorta. If you don't deal with this immediately, there's a risk of dissection up the aorta, and there's a risk of expansion down into the distal to cause tamponade. So we must deal with this quickly. Now I found, now this is not in the paper, but from my own experience, I found that often the cases that have trouble covering the entrance site with a stent are the cases that I've left it for some time. Either I was unaware that I've caused a dissection or a hematoma, or I haven't got the right stent. The stent's not big enough. I need to order a stent from somewhere. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, we had an osteo dissection like this, and the vessel at the os was 8.0. So we need to order a peripheral cover stent to put it in. And so that took ages. And by the time the 8.0 stent came, you can see on IVUS the hematoma was huge. And as the hematoma grows in the proximal vessel, the stent size you require starts to get bigger and bigger. Because coronary stents are quite limited, usually to about 6.0 only, it's quite easy to have quite difficult to seal it off if you allow the hematoma to grow. So you need to act on this quickly. IVUS is extremely useful because IVUS can tell you the size of the vessel and you can accurately size the stent. The worst thing is to put an undersized stent that doesn't seal it off. Then you're in trouble. So use IVUS when you have this. And IVUS can also stop you using contrast, which is very useful. In the paper, it mentions the use of cover stents. So if a simple drug-eluting stent cannot seal it off, you can use a cover stent to seal it off. So that's dealing with the ostium hydraulic dissection extraplaque hematoma. For the CTO body hematoma, straw is very useful. Again, this is not in the paper, but you can see in the channel there's a live in the box case where I did straw stenting. A similar technique can be used. Especially if you already have a wire in the subintimal space, just put a microcatheter down and suck on it with an deflator while you stent and cover the entrance site. And keep sucking a couple of minutes afterwards, and you'll find you can get rid of the hematoma. For distal vessel hematoma expansion, the problem is you collapse the distal vessel and you don't get good runoff. One solution in the paper is to put a small, low-pressure stent in the distal to keep things open. And you can always bring the patient back in 2 to 3 months and upsize the stent. In fact, that's what happened 2 days ago with the 0.85 balloon that I ruptured and caused the hematoma. We put a 2038 stent in the distal right coronary up to the bifurcation. And we had great outflow. So patients coming back in December for us to blow the stent up back to 3.5. So that's the plan. You can use a cutting balloon to cut the distal vessel so that you fenestrate and release the extraplaque back into the true lumen. This works well, but IVUS again is very useful here. Because if you use IVUS, you can see if there's a lot of plaque in the distal vessel, this cutting balloon doesn't work because it's unable to cut through all the plaque. If the distal vessel is quite clean, this works quite well. Again, not in the paper, but another solution, of course, is you can do the straw technique. You can do extraplaque blood withdrawal stenting. So you can put a CTO wire or down into the subintimal space at the CTO body. And then because there's a hematoma that already expanded, there's no resistance there. You can then put a microcatheter down and swap down to a workhorse wire that can then wire down to the distal lumen, distal subintimal space. Then you put the microcatheter down and start sucking there. And then again, you got to seal off the entry site, and you got to wait longer, wait maybe 4 or 5 minutes to collapse the distal lumen, and then distal subintimal space. Then you can take it out. So you can do extraplaque blood withdrawal, EBW stenting, to reduce the distal hematoma. And that works quite well in my experience, but not in the safety paper. So I hope that you don't meet this problem of hydraulic dissection and extraplaque hematoma. But if you meet it, I hope this talk helps you and you can solve your problem. And I wish you all the luck in your CTO PCI. If you like this video, do click the like button and do subscribe if you want to hear the rest of the safety videos that are coming up. Until next time, bye-bye, my friends.